What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I want to make sure it is known that one of the great secrets in this world is that people don't vote with their hands, they vote with their feet. Now, what do I mean by this? And of course, in the States right now, we're going through election season, and many people are going through the polls, and there's a lot of hoopla around the political arena. And I'm looking back at, I don't even know if people even appreciate the value of politics anymore. And this is why I say that I think initially a lot of people strive for political say because they want to input into the system and how it turns out and into some betterment of their life. But what I've noticed in the US is voting isn't even about individual self-interest anymore as much as it's about virtue signaling, and that people vote and they talk about their vote to indicate some higher being, whether they're voting for a right-wing candidate because they want to show how free market they are or how much Hayek they've read, or they're voting for a left-wing or progressive candidate to virtue signal how virtuous they are, and as a sign of their sympathy, understanding, and their charitable intent to their neighbor. This gives them some type of, they're seeking a superiority through morality, as opposed to people voting based off of general understanding of issues and their desires they wish to implement. I mean, if this was the case, there would be more than just two parties, right? But these people fall into these two buckets because they got to side one way or another. They don't want to abstain because they don't want to miss out on that opportunity to virtue signal. If I go to a store and they have 3 shirts, I want a green shirt. They have an orange shirt, black shirt, white shirt. I'm not buying any shirt because I'm specifically looking for a certain type of shirt. So if you go, I don't say, well, they only have these color shirts, let me change my mind. But that's also because I live in a free market economy. And you know, if they don't have a green shirt, somebody else have a green shirt. And this is where the vote with the feet comes into play. I leave the store and go to another store. Looking back at the states, in the state-to-state migration, in fact, I've been taking macro first. One of the ways I find out if a country's doing great is I look at its migration flows. Are people coming to that country or fleeing that country? A lot of people, and this goes back to the virtue signaling. I use the Cuba-U.S. example as a big one. A lot of people sit there and they say Cuba is X, Y, and Z, and they talk all this about doctors, as if a society exists solely on how many doctors you can produce, as if that's the only thing that matters. A society consists of so many things, not just doctors. Communist countries and socialist countries have an ability to over-index on one thing. They put all their resources in one thing. For the Soviet Union, it was the military-industrial complex. For Cuba, it was their medical sector. And the reason why they do this is to try to gloat or claim some victory over the socialist system. But all it proves is that the system is not built for diversity or breadth of scale. So a lot of people will argue such, oh, well, Cuba pushes out this many doctors, etc. When the last time you've heard of someone going to Cuba for medical tourism? When you look at migration flows, are Americans, I can't tell you a conversation I've heard of Americans talking about seeking a better quality of life outside of some fringe ideologue, seeking a better quality of life in Cuba. But I can cite plenty of precedents of Cubans fleeing Cuba either by sea or by going to South America and traveling through Central America to arrive in America. This shows me that there's a fundamental issue with Cuba and it's a fundamental advantage for America. People are voting with their feet. And the things that matter to the people that matter, the people that's going to take act, these are people that's not reliant on the government handouts. They're not reliant on the dole, which will make you pretty much obedient to the state, right? Because if you're dependent on the state for your sustenance, you can't question the state. But the people that actually want to be proactive in their life, actually want to be the master of their fate, captain of their soul, they move their feet. And take that from the macro, take that to Africa. Look at the migrations. Plenty of Africans I've had conversation with talk about the evil European colonialism, imperialism, etc., etc., etc. Where are the migration flows going to? Where are the migration flows going to? Is it outside? Is it going from Europe to Africa or from Africa to Europe? And you look at if you look at the extremes that people are willing, that just compounds what's really underway here. That is that people are seeking places where they can have options, employment, and a higher quality of life. And they're from to pattern. Where they're leaving from to where they're going to identifies where that higher quality of life is. I'll give you one more example on a smaller scale. U.S. interstate migration. You have a bunch of people, a lot of blue states would say, which get built up, major governments. So now the major governments or central power have a lot of contracts. You've got a lot of unions. Of course, these guys are going to benefit. They're the big boys. But who does his disadvantage? As the big boys win, the grass beneath is trampled. So you see what a lot of middle class and working class people do. Where are they going? Are they going to other big government states, or are they fleeing to more rural states or states that are more favorable to a business environment, lower cost of living? These are things that matter to the average person. The migration shift within the last 2 decades of the U.S., at minimum, I would say at minimum, this goes back even into the mid to late 20th century, but the overall migration pattern has been from big government states such as Illinois, New York, California. These people vote these big government policies in because they sound good. And then once they start to feel the effect of it and their cost of living go up, they're uncompetitive, and now you're forced on the dole because of cost of living, etc. They flee to cheaper places, which have a more liberalized market and better opportunities. And even though it's not as developed, those opportunities are enticing enough to get those people to leave their state of origin. So as I sit here and watch the voting season, I'm just getting ill looking at the virtue signaling that's going on. Where people have already told you where their vote's at. People have shown that with their feats, with their state-to-state migration. Now, the higher-ups want to preserve the system, of course, because they benefit most from the current system. They're the higher-ups. They're at the top of the food chain. Why would they want to change anything? The people at the bottom, they've accepted a certain type of subservience to the state. And to them, that subservience is far more enticing than to go out the cage, as they say, the bird in the cage. They fear going outside the cage because of all of the dangers that exist. And some people, they prefer to be in the cage because that cage offers them a certain level of protection, which they find value in. But the vast majority of birds want to fly. And that's what you're seeing now. You're seeing people are voting with their feet. So I don't care pretty much what the elections say one way or another in any given country. I'm looking at where are the people going. If you want to tell me Rwanda's crazy, show me Rwanda's migration flow. If you want to show me that a country is America or the West is the evil West, show me their migration flow. So, just my thoughts on that. People vote with feet, not hands. Love to hear your thoughts. Comment below. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Back to well.